After being in legacy media for 30 years, that's definitely part of the appeal about being able to write what I want to write. Like what is right to publish and what isn't, that is all on me. It's not like I have to worry about the infrastructure and the 300 other people who are working with me. That is resonating. The idea that this is a smart take on celebrity that you can't get anywhere else.
Welcome to Before We Cheers. I'm Zach Miller, and today I'm sitting down with Dan Wakeford. Dan helped run In Touch and Life and Style at the peak of Us Weekly tabloid era, and he ran People for 3 years. He ran the Sexiest Man Alive franchise. He covered Britney for 25 years. And for decades, he sat in the rooms where celebrity culture was literally decided. And now fully independent for the first time in his career, he's writing Celebrity Intelligence and finally telling us how this machine really works. Dan, welcome to Before We Cheers.
Thank you for having me, Zach.
Of course. Happy to have you. Where'd you grow up in the UK?
An hour outside of London. It's kind of like, it's called Hampshire, okay. Like it's the home counties.
Where, and did you spend any of your school time in London? Like, I'm curious how you made it to the US.
I went to university in the Midlands in Leicester. I studied American studies randomly, but had no ambitions to live in America. It was just a good way to study history, English and politics, which I was like the combination of. And then I came down to London and I, like most kids after college, wanted to be in media. So I did work experience. I was an intern everywhere in television and in newspapers and lots of different places, and ended up loving journalism, training to be a journalist, and then going to the countryside again for about 9 months, where I worked on a local paper covering local fates and local news and local council meetings, and learning the basics of journalism. I can still probably do shorthand and write down 100 words a minute and things. So really grounding myself in journalism. But I got called back to somewhere I'd done an internship, and I got a job at The Sun, which is a Rupert Murdoch paper, for a year and a half working on their gossip column. And it was a strange time. It was the time when I was first coming out. I was about 23, 24, whilst also working for possibly one of the most homophobic environments in my life, working for a Murdoch newspaper. I would walk in and they would be they would be having an argument saying, why are you putting that AIDS-ridden F word in the paper on a night when I first kissed my first boyfriend. And so it was a strange time, and it was a dark time, and I didn't love that world and the aggression within the reporting. And I eventually moved to magazines, which was really a happy place for me. The balance of the excitement of telling thrilling stories that everybody wants to hear, and whilst also the creativity of how you put something together and focus on a reader and looking at the psychology of the connection between celebrities and the readers. So from Heat, I was at Heat, it exploded. It was about to be folded when I arrived. I didn't know that when I arrived. And we took sales figures from like 40,000 a week to 700,000 by the time I left 3 years later. And it was so successful that in America, they wanted to copy that genre of magazines, which was the first magazine to approach celebrities as real people. So we wouldn't be putting them on a pedestal like People magazine and Hello magazine used to do back then. It would be more focusing on what they were like. And like the reality TV was exploding at the time. So we would do silly cover lines like Nicole Kidman uses a porta potty and like really reveling in silly things. And it really
she does.
And it really resonated. America saw this happening and saw there's a lot of money to be made here. And so I got brought over to be a senior figure. I was offered a job at Us Weekly and ended up going to In Touch to help create this genre of celebrity weeklies. And that was in 2002. And that's what brought me to America. I thought I'd come for 1 or 2 years and ended up, this is my 24th year.
Do you remember the first story you ever wrote?
I mean, I wrote stories as a kid in my newspaper, writing a story about how it was unfair that they were having new rules for exams for spelling as a little kid, and I wrote this headline and so not that sexy, but it showed I was interested in journalism from a young age. Other than that, I can't remember. I used to do a lot of press conferences and go to press conferences as a junior person and write them up for this newspaper called the Daily Mirror, which was very good. And it was a fun experience of being up close to celebrities, but not doing it on your own because it was a press conference, managing to ask one question and developing those skills.
So your first story that you wrote, as a professional journalist, do you remember what publication you were working at and what it was probably
at the Daily Mirror,
It was Nicole Kidman at the
No. It was probably an interview with someone like Martine McCutcheon, who was in Love Actually, talking about her soap days and talking about the project that she was doing next. Yeah.
It's my mother's favorite movie, by the way. Yeah. Just typical American mom. But to be fair, I love that movie as well. You know, when you were starting out, what was the trajectory? You know, because I'm sure there are plenty of journalists out there who just want to remain journalists. But I think when people are thinking about a corporate structure of a publication, then they think about working their way up. What would that trajectory have been since you eventually became editor-in-chief at several publications?
So I'm the least strategic person about my career ever. I've
Really?
just stumbled and done it. There's never been a plan. My plan has always just been doing good work. I've never realized, it took me a long time to realize I was actually quite good at what I do. I was a good reporter. I wasn't really an amazing writer. I didn't have the patience to be writing. I'm better now. But generally, I'm very good at managing people and taking responsibility. I'm very kind of forceful and work hard. And I treat people how I would like to be treated. And so naturally, I ran a small department of 3 people at Heat, and then that gradually, when I was in touch, a team of 8 to 10, and then gradually it moved further and further. And it wasn't a case of like I had a deep ambition to do this. The opportunities just came in front of me, and the people would leave, and I would be promoted. I could quite often in my career have had opportunities where the boss is doing something else and kind of encourages me to do parts of their job. And so in a way, I've been mentored towards being an editor quite well by having the skills of being an editor-in-chief whilst being an executive editor, a deputy editor. And so I've moved up. There were times when I was like, I've done this, I'm running things of a magazine as the number 2. Now it's my time. And I have then been ambitious and asked for things. And I think it's always important to ask and say what you want.
Yeah, it sounds like it was pretty common to be doing multiple jobs then.
I mean, I came from European media, which was very different. It was like we would be doing all the things. And so when I came to America, there was more resources. And even for a startup magazine brands I was working on, I was used to that scrappy nature. And so it's why I'm possibly still able to be in media now as it has shrunk, because I still have a scrappy attitude, even though I've worked for the most profitable and biggest magazine brand in the world, People magazine, where I could be grand and tell people what to do. I still love like picking up the phone, reporting a story, talking to people, writing a story, and doing the nuts and bolts of what's involved in storytelling.
Because it reminds you of why you got into it in the first place, right? Could you walk me through like what a cover meeting would look like at a typical publication like that? It doesn't have to be one specific one, but I'm curious, at like a People or an Us Weekly or an InStyle, when you're deciding who's going to be on the cover of one of those magazines weekly, like what's that looking like? Who's deciding?
It works differently at different publications, but the essence is the same. Ideas come from different people. When you're a People magazine, you have I would have a very deep schedule of looking at the upcoming events in the calendar and who was available when Nicole Kidman. It's not an porta potty, but when Nicole Kidman has a movie out, what is she going to talk about? There's a balance with weekly magazines and celebrity magazines, which is the access and the story. Is the story bigger than the star? That is quite often what is going to happen when a story is so captivating that it doesn't really matter how big the star is. The way celebrities change and the way the media has changed is your celebrities are not my celebrities. The celebrities that your mum and your gran know, like, they're probably the same ones from 30 years ago. That like a few people penetrate the A-list anymore, possibly Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet and a few others, but not many people in the last 30 years have changed since I've been covering them. Leo was there 30 years ago. Britney was there 30 years ago. Oprah, Nicole Kidman, all of these people have been famous and A-list for that time. And so the way we consume media, because there's so many outlets for it, it's become a lot more niche. And so if you have a story that is bigger than a star, you're always balancing those things. So that usually comes from the news. And so you're balancing between having a story lined up with Nicole Kidman for her movie, or, oh my God, there's been something happened with the Duggars and another legal case that deserves to be on the cover. So you're always balancing, trying to make sure not to commit to too many big covers with celebrities and then and then leaving space for when the news breaks. And so you would have different departments, someone running TV, and they would have to be presenting, these are the opportunities we have got coming up. Dan, which ones would you like us to proceed ahead with? The data around a cover, a lot of it comes from an editor's instinct, listening to their staff who are often quite close to their readers. And then other elements of like, what do I know from doing this for so long that resonates with the American population? Like, what do people in the Midwest want to know? What do people on the coast want to know? That can be very different. But essentially, broadly, what tenets of storytelling are going to be interesting? What resonates to a 45-year-old woman who is our reader? Then you also do have consumer testing. At People magazine, we had consumer testing. We could design covers and send them out to our readers, 2,000 of our readers, and we would get scores back. Sometimes you'd listen to them, sometimes you didn't. If you didn't and you had a bad sale, you'd be worried.
Yeah.
But if you didn't and you got a good sale and you did it on your gut, then that happens. Because when you're having consumer testing, everyone's going to say, oh, I don't watch reality TV. I don't want to buy a cover with a reality TV star. And then you do the cover and it does well.
There's this idea of guilty pleasure that was, I think, tossed around a lot about maybe you could be referring to celebrity journalism or reality TV back in the day. But I feel like we're kind of past that. And even maybe our parents and our grandparents still speak like that. But it seems to me that the younger generations, you know, my age, whoever you claim to be young, are really kind of just embracing the media for what it is. And they're not like shying away or cringing when they admit that they'll take it in because it's so ingrained in the culture. Do you feel that way now?
Zach, I love the fact you've noticed about that and you're going to get me going for it. Because I have a big philosophy with this, and it's part of the reason why I've set up Celebrity Intelligence. I believe the higher your IQ, your greater your need for celebrity stories, and that
really?
You can learn from celebrity stories. It's just social anthropology, and it brings us together. It gives us something to talk about, and that there's been a lot of misogyny over the gossip and around popular culture. Oh no, this is women's stuff. This is silly. This is frippery, and this is unimportant. That comes from history. In the medieval times, women gossip was seen as a good thing. The actual word gossip comes from goskin, which is women helping women during childbirth and talking them through and sharing their stories. Men took this over. The patriarchy and the church in the 15th and 16th century like outlawed that actual activity of women talking together because they were scared about it, and they made gossip illegal, and the word gossip became negative. And so that is the history of what we're talking about here.
My mind was just, did you see my face just now? My mind was just exploding over and over.
About that for hours. And like in modern day, you've got men in the bar talking about soccer and football, and all they're talking about is gossip, who won and why, and what the strategies behind it. What's the difference between women talking about their favorite reality show?
Right.
But as you say, I think there has been a revolution. Reality TV was a guilty pleasure. Gossip was a guilty pleasure. Now, it's not. This is cool to like reality TV, to be enthusiastic about it. The snobism has gone. Yeah. And I think that is possibly social media, people sharing it, people being more honest, and whether a pandemic has played into that, when you're just like, F it, I'm just going to say what I like and not worry about that. I'm not going to pretend I'm watching art house movies when I'm sitting at home watching that Real Housewives.
Right. So I was going to say, because it feels like people at the top of reality, like a popular Real Housewives franchise, are really driving the culture.
They certainly are. Like
at this point.
I've met Julia Roberts, I've met George Clooney, I've met the biggest stars in the world. I've been to parties with Nicole and Brad and Angelina and everyone. But people want to know the fact that I went to the Countess's wedding. And I spent a day with the Salt Lake City Housewives and created a cover and dressed them up as the Desperate Housewives of New York. Amazing. People are more interested in that. So you're reacting to that more, because these are people we see in our, and we see their stories, we relate to them, that there's a parasocial relationship with reality stars because they're in our living room and we follow their lives, whereas actors, it's the opposite. They're playing something else. If they're good at their craft, they should be hiding their personality. Yeah.
Beyonce, for example, a lot of people claim, I think one of the disputes over her is that obviously she's a consummate entertainer. There's no doubt about that. Her talent is like unmatched.
Her stage presence, her perfection as a star.
All of that. The brand, it's wonderful. But people have also claimed she doesn't really have a personality that people get to see.
I mean, you don't see her doing interviews are very controlled, and it works for her, and why not? And a lot of music artists are playing something different, a part, and that projection and that character is different from who they are. And so I understand that, but it's a different type of obsession and fame that you fall into.
So what's the intention for her? Not giving many of those interviews, because it's a different kind of fan engagement versus like a Taylor Swift, who is more, I'm not saying she's the complete opposite and she'll give everyone an interview, but she's certainly giving more than a Beyonce. So what do you think that does to her fans?
I think a lot of celebrity is about projection.
Yeah.
It's about like what I want to see in the person I'm idolizing, and not actually the realism of what they're like. Like the most popular magazine seller, the magazines still sell on the newsstand, is Princess Kate, the Princess of Wales. And nobody knows really anything about her. It's just projection from an American perspective that she is a princess, and that she is beautiful, and that she is a good person. And there's not much else other than that we know. She's rarely given interviews in the same sense as Beyonce doesn't. And it's about the fan projection, and that the celebrity is who we want them to be. So sometimes less is more.
Did you watch The Crown? Of course you did.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What do you think they got right? And, they dramatized heavily for the show about their relationship with the press.
The documents and the history with Princess Diana, like playing the game with the press. And that's why William is now so strict with the press. He saw the mistakes that his mother made by letting them in, playing the game. And he would rather keep his side of the road clean and not cross that line.
So Diana passes in 97, I believe. What did that do to your whole industry?
The repercussions for years, you would see the paparazzi is separate to the press. The paparazzi market is fed by the press and what they buy. But you would see that the photos that were being offered and the judgment and the and the ethics behind what you were choosing to buy were very different. And I've seen that over the last 30 years, having editors become more responsible about what it's okay to publish. And that then reflects in the behavior of the paparazzi. And so when Diana passed, and that obviously the actions of the photographers that night had implications on that industry forever. And that industry has improved. And the behavior of those people has improved. Also, the fact that media is so disparate and everybody now has their own phone in their pocket has destroyed the paparazzi industry anyway.
That was actually my next question about like how paparazzi, whether you can call paparazzi anymore since everyone's got a phone in their
Nobody's going to call a paparazzi anymore. There are still paparazzi doing that job, but it's a case of the media, the budgets aren't there for them to to buy a photo. Back in the days when I was in touch and you were talking about how that worked, like I remember People magazine spent about $100,000 on a photo of Britney that they didn't publish. They just bought it to stop other magazines buying it. And then I managed to find one from a London shop for $7,000. And so they spent something like $175,000 on a set of pictures of Britney. And then I found them for $7,000 and another place that had them. And so the money that was spent at that time was huge. Nowadays, nobody's buying a photo. Like I wouldn't be buying, I would have deals at Us Weekly. I wouldn't be buying individual photos. I didn't have a budget for that.
So that's not happening, you think, anymore at publications? No. They're not buying,
No, I think Demois probably buys some pictures from Backgrid, but it's not a commonplace. And the Daily Mail still buys photos, but they're not going for much money because nobody else is buying them.
I'm curious about the role of a celebrity publicist from your line of work and your experience, and what they were really instrumental in doing as far as maybe placing stories or pictures or confirming, denying what that role was.
Celebrity publicists are some of my best friends, and
Yeah.
the relationship is symbiotic. It's beneficial. It's always going to exist, and there's obviously a varied different things, different relationships. There's celebrity publicists who I know people who, if you're working a weekly, even at People magazine, that's respectable, they do not want their client in that magazine no matter what, and so they are doing everything they can just to keep them out of the press. And so their philosophy is you bring the star when they've got something to sell. They don't want their star to be in the magazines and in the press when there's no reason for them to be there. Other stars and other publicists have different strategies. They want their people there all of the time. So as you say, there would be tips that what they're doing, placing stories, things off the record, things on the record, interviews to promote projects. It is and was very varied at many different times. I would help some of the most famous people in the world by like giving them information about how things were working, and if they were concerned that their children were going to be taken photographed of. And I would help some of the most famous stars in the world protect their kids by having a good relationship and explaining, like, yeah, we're not going to run these photos.
I was just thinking about the role of celebrity publicists even now. It made me think of the whole Blake Lively drama over the past couple of years. It feels to me like now that it feels like that case is actually closed, that I'm not sure it really did the favor that she wanted it to do, as an example.
I mean, at that court case, I don't think there were any winners other than the lawyers in that.
I don't think anyone won either.
That case has shown that the communications that you have and the way you operate, you should not be sending an email without thinking that this could go public, and the whole data and the information that is going around with a lot of these court cases, that you should be honorable. And the best way to do that is to act well and be a good person. And the way in my philosophy in everywhere I've worked, certainly in the last 15 years, is to treat people how you would expect to be treated. And if something is unfair, then don't print it.
Do you think that in the age of social media that there's any way to really hide at this point? If anyone can just be Gossip Girl and report and go on TikTok and say what they heard or something.
I mean, you cannot change a narrative.
Yeah.
Like I had a friend who was going to be on The Housewives, and I'm just like, you cannot change, warning, you cannot change the narrative. The fans are over every single aspect of your life. You cannot control things like you could in the old days. So there are things you can do. You speak on the phone instead of texting somebody anything controversial, and making sure that there's no traces there. But I think these court cases recently have exposed really dark things in Hollywood that are going on, the digital reputation management and things like that. Like people in the industry hadn't even heard of that at the top of the industry, and then you're hearing that is going on behind the scenes.
When you say digital reputation management, what are you referring to specifically?
I mean, in that case, there's allegations
for Blake Lively.
Yeah, and then in the Rebel Wilson case as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that websites being set up and managing reputations of other people by using digital mechanics. Are
you surprised when you hear that there are still sort of fake celebrity relationships or contractual celebrity relationships in weddings anymore? Nothing surprises you.
No, I'm not a big believer in those things.
Yeah.
I don't believe in those conspiracy theories quite to the same as other people get excited about them. I don't believe that people set things up in quite that way. Yes, they may go on a date and make sure that they are photographed, but I'm not somebody who really adheres to the fact that people are pretending to be dating for a long period of time. Like, I haven't really had anybody give me ever an example of somebody who has that's faked a relationship for any long period of time. I've had celebrities call me and say, I'm going to be at the theater with another famous guy, get the paparazzi there back in the day, but I haven't, and then nothing, they didn't go beyond anything beyond that date. But I haven't ever heard like people pretending, both of them, to be in a relationship.
So you don't really ever see like a press conference now and you see like on the new Naked Gun, like with Pamela Anderson, and I cannot believe I'm
Liam Neeson. That is actually a very good example. So well done, Zach. You found one that is questionable, and like that relationship that they both seem to play the part that it was happening, and still the grey area of were they really dating has not been answered.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to rock the world or, shift anything.
I mean, the emotion around that, I did a cover for Us Weekly, and it was just like, they deserve this and so do we. And like it really captured the nation because like everybody wanted them to be together.
It's true. Everyone was pretty much rooting for them. You're like, no one hates either of them. So why shouldn't they both be happy? Especially Liam, like, after losing Natasha Richardson all those years ago.
And Pamela's had her fair share of.
Can you walk me through like the competition food chain of what the celebrity journalism spectrum looks like in the industry, like an In Touch versus a Life and Style versus an Us Weekly?
So back then, like People has always been the gold standard for celebrity journalism for access, not for news. And so the two areas don't always work well together because celebrities aren't going to give interviews to people who are publishing news that they don't like.
Got it.
And so there's an equation there.
Do you mind just like determining the primary difference in that business between access and news?
So access is a big interview with a celebrity sitting down for an hour and talking about something, talking about usually their project, but then trying to relate it to their life or something the readers would be interested in, giving access as a cover. So at In Touch, that they didn't often get access to celebrities for covers. They would get some interviews inside reality stars, some TV stars, whereas movie stars, some of them would give interviews with People magazine. When I went to Life and Style, I moved that in more authoritative access direction, and that's where I made friends with the Kardashians and was one of the first people to ever put them in magazines and put them on covers. And so we moved in that genre of doing more access to celebrities, but then sometimes you would fall out with them if you then printed a story that they didn't like about their love life or something that happened. There's always a push and pull towards news and access at People. They didn't used to break that much news. They do break a little bit more now. The news they break is usually hand delivered from the publicists.
Got it.
And so if there's a baby being born, they'll announce it through. If you've broken up, you'll confirm it. Whereas the other places are having sources. They're talking to people around these celebrities and you're getting stories that the celebrities sometimes don't mind coming out because sometimes they're coming from the celebrities, but sometimes that they don't want to come out.
For something like a TMZ, when TMZ started, was the industry taking them seriously? Did they see them as like, a true competitor? Or
I think their work spoke for itself very quickly when they were breaking stories. When they pay sources, though, obviously it's a different thing. Wherever I've worked, I've encouraged not to move the journalism towards not paying sources, and I did that at Life and Style because it encourages bad actions in journalism, whereas TMZ do that, and that works very well for them. But it's a different type of journalism. They work very hard, and it's and they don't often get stuff wrong.
They don't often get stuff wrong. Something
that will get denied in public if it is denied. People aren't staying around and letting the untruth be out there. So a publicist will deny a story. You don't see TMZ stories being denied. They're doing good journalism in that respect.
They're not really giving interviews. They
may grab somebody outside the club with a camera. But nobody's sitting down with TMZ, and they probably don't want to do that either.
I don't think they do either. On the topic of celebrity interviews, who do you think's really doing the best job conducting or at least publishing like some of the best ones right now?
I mean, the new trend in celebrity interviews is the chicken shop date and the podcast video interviews,
right,
and the concepts and the hot wings and all of those areas. And so that is the trend. My favorite podcast, apart from yours, Zach, obviously, is How to Fail, which is Elizabeth Day. But it's a similar concept idea to yours, which you're talking broadly and slowly about someone's life and what can you learn from it? What can the listeners learn from it? And so I love her interviews and the structure that she has created and established and the safety that interview provides and the takeaways. I'm big on talking to celebrities about their extraordinary lives and what you can learn from them about yourself and what you can take back to your own life and change your own life and improve it. These people have experienced things that only a few people get to experience. And I love it when celebrities talk about what they've gone through, whether that's a mental health challenge and whether that is coming out as gay. Like there's a lot of moments in my life and my work at People and Us Weekly that I've done that. I was the first ever editor to create an LGBT pride issue for People, which felt revolutionary, which is strange, but they'd never done one because of middle America and not wanting to alienate them. And I'm a big believer if you can touch people's hearts, you can change people's minds and you can tell interesting stories. And I couldn't find anyone to put on this issue. I only had an interview with Caitlyn Jenner, and like the Republicans hate her.
She's just universally hated.
This is going to be a disaster for sales. And then
South Park's favorite person to shit on, I think.
A friend of mine suggested Anderson Cooper, so I just wrote him an email and said, as a gay man growing up, a gay kid, my path to happiness would have been a lot clearer if I'd seen a gay man on the cover of a magazine holding their baby. Would you consider doing this? And he was like, I don't need to do press, but I will do this because your argument of what you're saying is important. And having celebrities tell their stories that can have an impact on society and change people. And at People, I did the same with a mental health series called Let's Talk About It, where we got celebrities to talk about the challenges they've gone through, whether that's Glenn Close and her family and Leanne Rimes and The Rock and many other people talking about that to normalize mental health issues, not make people feel less alone and destigmatize it, because people don't talk about it and everyone's got someone in their family who's going through something.
Yeah.
So celebrities are just the leading protagonists in society that we're all interested in, but so you listen to their stories and you can do good from telling those stories.
What do you think you have learned from an anthropological perspective? Like, what's hit the hardest for you from your experience? You don't have to pick one.
There's one really dark and negative thing, that women judge women harder than they judge men.
That's
it's just really awful to see and acknowledge. But like within celebrity stories, you see like a man can cheat on a woman and everyone blames the woman.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
It's just you see with Brad and Angelina and Jen, like Brad walked through it all scot-free, but whereas he's the person who like cheated on Jen with Angelina. Yeah. Angelina was victimized, and like people just judge women harder than men, and like to learn that is sad, and you see that within the metrics very quickly.
Has anything surprised you, like in the post-COVID era of like this side of journalism story-wise, or, something in the industry that's really thrown you for a loop?
I think the rise of influencers is obviously a big part of the last decade. Because of the niche nature of how we consume media. Like it's what the stories that they're telling and the revelations that come through that break through and that become interesting, and that the story again is bigger than the star. But a lot of that stuff you're seeing when you're working on a day-to-day level with famous people, and you see the number of influencers who are committing suicide, to me is hugely shocking. And the mental health around fame and around being perpetually online and the dangers of that are huge.
I'm really actually glad you brought that up, because it does feel like we're getting a new story about, some influencer passing away very often. And it almost feels like a conspiracy with the amount of stories you see as to why it's happening. But
the negativity of social media and being perpetually online for all of us is not natural and human, and not that there's something functionally wrong about that. And so when somebody is living their full life in that way, I think you do get disconnected and you're not having human interaction, and your sense of self and everything is warped, and the parasocial relationships and the pressure that come with that is not healthy.
No, it's not.
And so when
it's not normal.
Yeah, and when you're covering that, you see that just from the volume of stories you're telling.
Throughout your career, I'm sure there were moments where your morality and your ethics have to play in, and you're like, this might sell some magazines or something like that, but I really don't feel comfortable publishing this story. Do you feel like that happened more at a certain time during your career, or was it? I'm not asking you.
I mean,
any specific story.
It happened more when I was before I worked at People, and my career in the last 15 years has been a lot more like I don't have to make those decisions because I wouldn't cover those stories anyway. Mm-hmm. But when I was younger and working at a place like In Touch, there would be stories about somebody cheating on their wife with the nanny, and the publicist,
like a Tiger Woods or something.
I'm not saying that,
right?
And the publicist came to me and said, "Please, this is going to mess up the whole of their divorce settlement, and then they're going to be banned from seeing their children. Can you not print this?" And we didn't publish it. Celebrity publicist rang to say, "My client is dating someone really famous. I'm going to tell you on Monday. Save the cover." They rang and they said the name, and the person's got a wife, and they didn't know. And so we're not putting that, and we didn't publish that. So it's just like there's honor among thieves even in that world, and that I don't want to put upset if I don't need to, and so I haven't had to make those decisions for a long time because they're not. I know what we would do and what I would do and what I wouldn't.
I want to talk about celebrity intelligence because you're. Obviously, we've talked about a breadth of your experience. You've literally been like at the forefront of making the decisions, for so many stories at the best celebrity publications in the world. And now you're at this point where still you were making decisions then, but you're making decisions differently for your own shop now. You're able to press publish without anyone, vetting. And it's not like you're airing your grievances or anything like that, but you're doing things your way.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. And after being in legacy media for 30 years, that's definitely part of the appeal about being able to write what I want to write. And it is exciting that I can bring the experience of what I've gone through to the table and then give my perspective on these stories. And again, what we talked about with publicists, there is a pull and a pull, a push and a pull. Like at the moment, I'm not pushing towards access journalism because I'm most of my content is via newsletter talking about what stories are going on. I do plan to do more interviews in the future. And so I'm keeping an eye on that. I don't have a mission where I want to upset people. I just want to tell compelling stories that there are takeaways from. But I broke a big exclusive on Meghan and Harry looking at their finances. There was a big Variety article about how things have been going wrong in Hollywood, and I had a lot of follow-up questions. So I went and talked to their people who worked with them and around them, and had a lot of information, and I fact checked it and worked through their team, but they weren't happy with it. And so you doing that and having that balance on my own and having the idea of like what is right to publish and what isn't, that lands on me, and I'm excited about that because I can say exactly what I want and not worry about the brand repercussions. Obviously, I'm worried about my own brand repercussions with celebrity intelligence, but that is all on me. It's not like I have to worry about the infrastructure and the 300 other people who are working with me. That is empowering. And the space that I found with celebrity intelligence, like the people who are, the thousands of people who are reading it every week, are really, that is resonating. The idea that this is a smart take on celebrity that you can't get anywhere else, a smart take on popular culture, that these stories have meaning and they have takeaway, and it's just not empty hot air. The business model in legacy media now is kind of mostly just quantity. They're producing 300 stories a day that are all very thin, whereas I want to tell 3 stories a week that are more in depth, or tell you shorter stories that actually have a point and why this is important that you should read them. And so with Celebrity Intelligence, you're getting 2 emails a week with an update of like all of the stories that you should care about, and then a couple more in-depth stories as well.
If I were you and I was, coming up with, the top stories of the week this week, what is being reported on now that's most interesting to you for Celebrity Intelligence? I
mean, this week, I'm doing a deep dive into OnlyFans in Hollywood.
Really?
Why so many celebrities are now going on to the platform.
Yeah.
Some are doing it in sexual nature, some aren't, but the whole nature and the difficulty and what that says about society and what that also says about Hollywood, because people aren't working. Like, it's not just everyone else out in the country who's struggling, Hollywood's struggling too. And so they're finding different ways to make money and connect with their fans. And so that is an interesting perspective to me. In the same sense, this morning I released an exclusive on Britney Spears' son moved following into her footsteps in music and celebrity. So there are many different things. I think that there's a lot of issues, people wondering what's going on with Britney next, like what her life is going to be like and what is the best thing that she could be doing. I think the royals with Meghan and Harry is just a primal story that people are always going to be interested in.
Yeah.
If you were telling me that story about your cousins, I'd be interested. And that's how you can tell a celebrity story is interesting. The idea that this guy whose mum died was like glued to his brother growing up, and now how they fell apart because the brother didn't like the wife, and then and they moved to America and their business is struggling. All of these elements is an interesting story, no matter what. Add in the fact that the wife's famous and this is a prince, his father's a king. Like these stories and where that goes, and then that story also has depth because there's political ramifications. And this is royalty, this is history. And so those stories are always going to be worth focusing on and looking at.
It feels to me like when you look at different stars throughout the last 20 years, there is a monumental shift. Maybe it was pre and post Britney 2007, where there was a different type of treatment that they went through versus Miley, you know, when she started in Hannah Montana, and then even years later when Ariana started to, you know, become famous in her own right. It felt like there was enough established and certain like hierarchies were starting to break down. It maybe like the tradition of paparazzi wasn't what it used to be or something like that. But
I think society has changed for many different reasons, and society has got kinder and gentler for the most part, and we have learned from our mistakes. Gentler. I do think, like, with the way the responsibility of the press, from my perspective, like we don't publish pictures of children, like that those rules didn't exist. Like People magazine up until like 15 years ago were publishing pictures of children who hadn't chosen to be part of this. And now the ethics behind that and the understanding of the mental health implications of fame, and that I don't publish anybody's health information, whether they're pregnant or not. That's not something that I've done in 15 years. Like, you don't print something about someone's personal health unless they're telling that story. And so a lot of ethics and kindness have happened and since the world has evolved. But I think social media has changed the expectation of fame and the celebrities in themselves, what they need to give out to be famous and to be always on, and how that consumes them.
So now that you're utilizing your own platform and all that, what do you really want the most from this endeavor for Celebrity Intelligence for you at this point in your life?
I want to tell meaningful stories around celebrities that resonate with people. I want to create a brand that does something different out there, that is providing a perspective and a depth that you can't get anywhere else. And I want to create quality stories. I don't want to write BS just because it's going to hit the algorithm. I just want to tell meaningful stories that make a difference and that tell something about celebrity. And I've only been doing this for 2-3 months now, and just the feedback that just on Friday, the CEO of an advertising company just went on LinkedIn and said, "I just found this newsletter. It's amazing." And and this is a smart, successful woman who's realizing that this perspective on popular culture has value and is interesting.
So in the tradition of my show, what are you most excited for?
I'm excited to build this brand and tell different types of stories, but also like build it gradually. I'm excited to one day have more of a team. I miss having a bit of a team and doing this. But I have a great support system and mentors and a friend Alex who's helping and some writers who are contributing. But I'd love to gradually build it, but I want to take my time. I've made mistakes at media companies in the past, growing things too quickly. So I'm doing it gradually. Telling more exciting, fun stories.
Oh my God, you just touched on something that I think is going to be the toast, which is going to be to the mistakes that make us better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cheers to that, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.